Since you were here earlier in the year, we've continued with the reporting work. But what we've also done is just taken a step back and looked at where that reporting work sits in the context of our school as a learning organisation. So we then started to look at our approach to whole school evaluation, asking ourselves, was it honest? Was it transparent? Was it collectively owned by all partners in the school? Where our strengths were and what areas we need to develop. So the reporting and recording work has given us an opportunity to pause and consider the wider picture of how we evaluate as a school.
The way we see evaluation for improvement at Ysgol Calon Cymru is seeing ourselves as a learning organisation rather than a top-down system where it is simply the head teacher looking, for example, at books or going into lessons. We've really tried our best to create an open and honest system. It was clear that if reporting was going to be accurate for our learners and it would be trusted by our learners and our parents, then we needed to be able to make honest and trustworthy and accurate evaluations ourselves within schools. I think assessment and reporting moving forward with Curriculum i Gymru has been something that colleagues in other schools do talk about, being unsure of what the future is going to be, that almost scaffold or the safety net of levels. There's almost that hole there that it's going to take schools, I think, to be particularly brave to report accurately on exactly where our learners are. So it was the reporting that has really made us look at all other aspects of school life, including evaluation. As with other schools, we're in that position now where we're not just looking at Curriculum i Gymru, we've still got our Year 9s going through the levelling process, we've got external examinations for our Key Stage 4 and 5 learners. So finding that balance again and making that move over to Curriculum i Gymru full scale is something that we have to be sure about. But talking around different elements of Curriculum i Gymru, for example, reporting on well-being of learners, we've had to be brave to say to staff, although they're fully behind what we're proposing, there's still those intricate details that we've got to get right before launching that full scale.
6 months ago when we piloted the radar diagram and our approach to parents' evening, where the learners actually led the parents' evening, we had some really positive feedback. We've actually had a lot of schools contact us to find out more, and we've started the ball rolling with that work in terms of how we're going to make sure it works whole school, because it's a very different picture from being with 20 pupils to, over 500 pupils. We actually thought, right, we've got a curriculum leads working group, and we all came together and said, right, what is going to benefit us as a school, our learners, and also engage our parents? The answer to that was our interim report, our parents' evenings, possibly give the parents a bit of a prompt sheet, because it's all about developing that language of learning, not only with our learners, but our parents as well, engaging them in the learning process, helping them to understand, but also ensuring the learners are able to talk about their learning and talk about the progress they're making in learning, understand their own journey in learning. Also, our written reports need to bridge the gap between our well-being of our learners and the progress they're making in learning. So how do we implement this whole school? We put a short survey out to all staff. The whole school feedback, it was very positive, but also picked up lots of concerns we know we need to address. What does progress in learning look like in Ysgol Calon Cymru? And that's going to be our focus of the next inset. When we started thinking about Curriculum i Gymru, there's so many key parts of the Curriculum i Gymru that we needed to think about that now it seems like the right time to start thinking about the progress. Everything's sort of falling into place as we're going through our journey, everything sort of coming together and working for us here at Ysgol Calon Cymru. It's the challenge of our Curriculum i Gymru versus our cohort of GCSE pupils and our A-level pupils, trying to find that balance that is actually going to improve our assessment and reporting for the whole school, I think is really key here. And also thinking about staff and trying to reduce that workload, but making it more impactful and having a positive impact on our learners. So next is trialling these approaches. We're actually inviting our parent group into our inset in January to talk about progress in learning, what they see progress in learning as being, to develop that language of learning with our teachers, but also with our parents, so that everyone understands progress together. We are going to open up the school, invite parents into classrooms to get learners actually talking about their learning with their parents. So it's learners talking about their learning, what progress they're making, parents engaging in that learning and really encouraging that sort of enthusiasm around learning. We can't get our reporting practices right unless our teaching and learning is right, unless our evaluation for improvement is right in the school. We need that consistency. I think our approach now is going to be a big culture shift. It's about involving parents in the learning. And in terms of the radar diagram, that is sort of the end goal. Thinking about our progress in learning, I think the principles of progression are key in this, and how we can utilise the principles of progression within that diagram, which would then link to our Antur Addysgu, which is our schemes of learning. So we've got that whole picture of Curriculum i Gymru. So we've got our 4 purposes that link into our principles of progression, into our reporting, into our assessment, into our classroom. The radar diagram comes into that. To determine what progress in Ysgol Calan Cymru looks like, I think we really need to develop that language of learning, which is centred around a Curriculum i Gymru for our parents, our learners, our staff, all our stakeholders, but which is really centred around that learner.